My research is, I like to describe it as about 1/3 statistics, 1/3 genetics, and 1/3 computer science. My group's research is primarily focused on methods development and then application to trying to find which genes predict complex traits, whether that are disease traits or agricultural crop traits, any sort of phenotype that would be produced by genetics. And the particular outcome that I spend the most of my time thinking about are actually pharmacogenomic traits. So as opposed to trying to find which gene predicts a particular disease, we're actually trying to find which genes predict a person's individualized response to a particular drug or therapy. So let's say if you're a cancer patient and need to come in and your physician needs to decide, well, should I go with drug treatment A or drug treatment B for you? Can we find genes that will help predict which of those drug treatments will actually be the safest and the most efficacious for you? Because of this interdisciplinary nature of my research, it was a really natural fit for me to be a part of the Bioinformatics Research Center here on campus. So the Bioinformatics Research Center, the BRC, is an interdisciplinary research center that is made up of folks from statistics, genetics, and computer science that are all united by sort of an interdisciplinary research program and thinking about genetics, genomics, high throughput biological technologies, and developing methods to handle and analyze those sorts of data types. So something that I've found very exciting and I think is only going to become sort of more prevalent in the way that science is done are these large-scale team kind of projects, right? As data is getting bigger, the technology allows you to collect more and more data, but this requires more and more samples and more interdisciplinary teams to really make transformative scientific findings. And it's impossible, even if you do an interdisciplinary kind of research program, it's impossible to be an expert on every aspect of any problem. So it requires having people that are experts in each one of the sort of fields that a particular project touches on. So for me, what that means in some of my own research is working with investigators at, say, UNC Chapel Hill in their medical school. I do a lot with human pharmacogenomics, work a lot with the vet school and investigators in cows, but in really wanting to translate the findings from model organisms to humans, we need to partner with folks that are collecting human samples so we can test those hypotheses. Statistics is about analysis, but also very importantly experimental design. So helping you actually understand what are the questions that you're interested in and how can you effectively set up an experiment and optimize that experiment. I know sometimes people are scared to talk with statisticians because they feel like the answer is always get more samples. You'll need a bigger budget, more samples. But it's part of my job as a statistician on these teams to take a realistic budget, whether it's budget or a realistic sample size because of how long it takes to collect samples, just sort of effort and optimize what you can get out of that experiment given that limited range. I often joke that sometimes coming to a statistician after a study is done is often more of an autopsy than an analysis, where you can no longer save the study. I can only tell you what the study died of. Like, you can no longer save the patient. It's just a post-mortem dissection. So if you work with, sort of an interdisciplinary team there to say, what's your biological question and how can we optimize that and make sure that your study is powered to answer the questions that you have. It's always an exciting, for me, challenge in interdisciplinary research, right, to get to peek into other people's fields. So whether you're studying, crop characteristics or, growth rates in agricultural herds or pharmacogenomics in dogs or humans, it requires sort of meeting in the middle on the jargon you use, the terminology that you use, and some of the background of the study. And for me, that's something that's really, really rewarding about these large projects is getting to peek into other fields and getting to learn about some exciting research and getting to make a even small contribution to some very cool projects.